Hey friends, it is Jessica from Three Rivers Homestead, and in today's video I'm coming to you from my kitchen. We are going to talk about the Three Rivers Challenge and where we go from here. So I've talked a lot over the years about doing a pantry challenge. I have talked about how you prepare for it, and I have shown you meals throughout the pantry challenge and how we use all of the food that we preserve throughout the year in simple meals to feed my large family. But what I've never really touched on is, what do you do coming out of the pantry challenge? What's the best way to transition back into shopping at the grocery store? How do we take the lessons that we've learned and apply them to budgeting and meal planning and everything throughout the rest of the year? So that's what I want to touch on in this video. We're going to talk about garden planning. I'm going to talk about how I'm going to slash my grocery budget this year, despite the fact that prices are increasing and we've added another member to our family. I'm going to talk about using the knowledge that I gained through my inventory system to better prepare for next year, all of those sorts of things. So if you're interested in that, let's go ahead and get started. I have got my inventory book. I've got the baby monitor. The baby is sleeping, so we're going to see if I can get this video made before she wakes up. So, as I mentioned, I have my inventory book. I've done a video before in preparation for this year's pantry challenge on my inventory method. I'll link it in the video description. But having this information that's in this inventory after the pantry challenge is completed is really helpful moving forward. This has taught me so much about our shopping habits. It always does every year. So I have been very diligent, and nothing has come up out of my pantry or out of my freezers without being marked off. Everything in here is accurate, which is extremely helpful. I'm just going to give you an example. So on my first page, ketchup is the first item that I have on my inventory. You can see how much ketchup we started the pantry challenge with and how much we used throughout the challenge. Why is this information helpful as I'm moving forward and planning to do my first grocery shopping trip? So I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 7, 15 bottles of ketchup over a 2-month period. It has been almost exactly 2 months since I began marking off of this inventory. Why is that information necessary or helpful? Well, it helps me moving forward. If let's say you're someone that likes to keep a 6-month supply of food in your house or a 3-month supply of food in your house, if you know that in 2 months' time you went through 15 bottles of ketchup, I'm doubtful very many of you guys went through 15 bottles, but for our large family with 8 children eating, they went through 15 bottles of ketchup. Then that's really helpful information for me. I want to keep at least 3 to 6 months worth of food stocked in our pantry, so I can take this information, whether it's ketchup or mustard or maple syrup or oil or canned beans, whatever it is that I'm going to purchase from the grocery store. I can use this information that's in the inventory that way moving forward. And that is one of the first lessons from the pantry challenge that I use when I'm moving back into grocery shopping. The next thing that's really helpful in reviewing my inventory coming out of the pantry challenge is for canning purposes. It's not just for store-bought purposes, but I can look that, for example, we went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of my chili bases in that 2-month period. So that's probably about, 1 meal's worth of chili that we had each week. And that's pretty standard in our house. But that gives me an idea moving forward for next year of how much I should can and have in storage. Some things, like my chicken soup bases, I've gone through nearly all of them. And it's going to be until this fall before I process chickens again and I'm able to can up a chicken soup base. So I definitely didn't can enough of that. And that's helpful to see looking at my inventory. Some things like, let's say canned corn. I can look at my inventory and see I only used up 4 of my canned corn, and I have a ton here on the list that wasn't used. So I know that maybe next year I'm not even going to can corn because it looks like it's just not something that we use very often. So what the next step, now that the pantry challenge is ending, is I'm going to really take a look at this inventory and start making some decisions like that. What was really worth my time to preserve last year? What did we love? What did we barely touch? And then I can make preservation plans for the year and start doing some garden planning based on this inventory. This week I got out all of my seeds that I have in storage, and I'm making some decisions on what I'm going to plant, how much I'm going to plant of each item based on what I have here in my inventory. I saw that I have used, if I get to my garlic and onions, for example, I used 4 out of 6 of my bags of onions already. I only used 1 out of 5 of my bags of garlic, and so I do not need to grow so much garlic. I'm really glad that I pared it down. Onions, however, it seems like we're going through a lot more. So this year when I go to plant onions, I'm probably going to plant a lot more. So that's why having an inventory like this coming out of the pantry challenge is so useful, because I'm going to be going through all of this and making some really tough decisions about the garden this year. I really, in light of how grocery prices have increased, I want my garden this year to be about production and not necessarily so much about whimsy like it has been in previous years. I've planted a lot of different fun varieties or things that are maybe pretty just because they're fun to look at in the garden. But this year I want it to be about the things that we really use throughout the winter. Another thing that I'm using the inventory right now, just because the pantry challenge is over, does not mean that we're done eating out of the pantry. Tomato sauce, for example, I have listed right here. I'm looking at how much we have used so far this year, and I'm thinking about how I won't have an abundance of tomatoes to use to make things like tomato sauce fresh from the garden until probably close to August. So then I can look and calculate, if it's March, how many months I have until August, and if I canned enough to get me through if I continue to use my jars of tomato sauce at the same rate that I did through the months of January and February. And it's looking like we probably will have enough to get to that point. And so this shows me that this was a good amount for me to have in storage. And so I can probably preserve the same amount this coming year as I did last year. Okay, all of that inventory information is extremely helpful, but there's other information that I need to have before I go grocery shopping, and that is price comparisons. When you haven't been in the grocery store in a couple of months, prices can change, and I always, a couple times a year, sit down and I compare the places that I shop at. Those places are typically Aldi, Sam's Club, Walmart, and Azure Standard. And I will sit down and I will write down the prices of the things that I purchase, whether it's like, let's say, organic cane sugar, or like organic ketchup, or maple syrup, or something like that. And I'll write down the price, and then I'll break it down to like a price per fluid ounce or a price per ounce, and compare them. And I did that this week, and that is really helpful information moving forward to decide where I'm going to purchase the items that I am low on in my inventory. And it was kind of eye-opening for me. If you're interested in me doing some shopping hauls to show you where I found the best prices on those items locally, let me know, and I'll do that in the future. Now, when I look at my inventory, there are some things that we are nearly out of, like ketchup, that we obviously go through quite a bit of. There are some things that we're nearly out of that really aren't that big a deal because they're not necessities. So what I've done is I have made a list of all of the items that we are close to running out of or that we already ran out of. And I have put a star next to the ones that we're completely out of, and then I have highlighted the ones that are a priority to focus on purchasing. I will not go out and purchase everything that we ran out of right away, or that's going to blow my grocery budget. I'm going to spread the things that we ran out of over the next couple months. Probably my biggest takeaway from looking at what we used this year the most through this pantry challenge was that I had done a lot of preparation. You guys know most of my canning last fall was in preparation for being postpartum during this pantry challenge. And I did a lot of meals in jars just for convenience sake. And they were so helpful. And I don't think they would just be helpful because I was postpartum. I think in general, life is so busy at this point with extracurricular activities in the evenings with children and with homeschooling and all of the chores that I have to do during the day, to stop and make a lunch, that I am just in a season of life where having meals in jars just makes sense. We did not use a lot of single ingredient canned items, so like just canning green beans by themselves or corn by itself. Even things like fruits, like just canned pears or canned peaches, they just didn't get used this year because we had storage apples and citrus and things that we were using instead for fruit. So I'm not even this year going to bother canning individual fruits and veggies. Everything that I can next year, I want it to be meals in jars. I want to have entire canning shelves full of meals in jars. I want soup bases and sloppy joe mixes and pizza sauces. Essentially want to create a grocery store of easy foods that my kids can grab and heat up themselves. But I want it all to be homegrown and home canned and healthy, where we know every ingredient, none of the nasty chemicals and additives and preservatives and things, just homegrown goodness in jars, all beautiful on the pantry shelves. And that is my goal for this year. And that is the energy that I'm taking into this growing and canning season. Garden this year is going to be very bare bones. It's going to be the things that we love and that we preserve the most of to really save our family money and be as productive as possible. Another thing I'm going to focus on this year, with the price of eggs just continuing to skyrocket, we are increasing the production of our laying flock. I am going to slowly transition over into more productive egg laying breeds. We tend to hatch out our own egg layers, and I'm going to bring in a few more production breeds just to make sure that we lay through the winter next year. And I'm going to be preserving eggs. I loved my freeze-dried eggs this winter. I used them way more than I have in past years, and so we're going to be freeze-drying a ton more eggs this year. And I'm going to be water glassing eggs and all of that because I've realized that at this season of life, my kids want to have scrambled eggs pretty much every breakfast, and I need to be prepared for that when it's winter and my hens aren't laying and I can't go to the grocery store, and I wouldn't want to go to the grocery store and spend these prices on eggs right now anyways through the winter. So anyways, this is why I love doing this challenge every year. It gets me fired up for the coming year. The bonus is I lost 5 pounds after the initial weight loss of having Abby, my baby. In the month of February, I lost 5 pounds because my eating habits really changed over the pantry challenge. I'm not snacking in the evenings because snacks aren't available unless I take the time to go cook them for myself, and I haven't had the energy because I'm tired at the end of the day with my baby. And so it's kickstarted this weight loss. I have 35 more pounds to go, and I want to take the habits, the good eating habits that I've created over the months of January and February, and let those continue through the rest of the year, even when we're going back to the grocery store and the allure and temptation of all of the foods are there. We've learned about the things that we need to grow for the year, how much we use during a 2-month period, and how much we should keep stocked. And I've made a plan for saving my family money in the coming year. So I hope that you guys have found the challenge just as valuable if you participated. If you didn't participate, I hope that you've gleaned, if not some frugal recipes from the meal videos, but maybe this has been motivation for you to do some kind of inventory of your own pantry and maybe do an unofficial, not a challenge, but just start tracking. what you use. Be really intentional about what you use from your pantry, and find ways to bring down costs and be much more intentional with your garden planning this year or things like that. I think it's always good to push ourselves and challenge ourselves. I think that deprivation, being deprived of things for short periods of time, is fruitful in our lives. It helps us appreciate when we do have those things again, and it helps us to remain grateful for the things that we do have now, even if we don't have those things that we maybe want that are special. I just am just grateful for the opportunity to do this, and doing it during a time when we didn't necessarily have to do it will make it that much easier if, let's say, 6 months from now we had to do a pantry challenge, whether due to emergencies or job loss or whatever would happen. So this was a really good exercise, as it always is. Okay guys, little Miss Abby here woke up and I need to quit talking. I'm getting over an illness and I'm starting to get a tickle in my throat and finding it hard to continue rambling, and I'm rambling too much anyways. So the next step for me now is to make my grocery list using all the information that I just talked about, and then to get down in my pantry and really do some cleaning and organizing. I need to get all of the empty jars kind of organized and put on shelves so that they'll be ready to begin filling here in late spring. You guys know that my policy throughout the fall and early winter is that whenever I get 7 empty jars, I refill them with something and put them down. I never put empty jars back into the cellar. But over the last month, we had been emptying jars at such a rapid rate that I was having a hard time filling them. So we have a lot of empty jars just kind of down there in boxes. And I always say that in the beginning of March, it's time to let them empty and fill down there so that we'll have enough empties accumulated by the time I begin to do my first canning projects, which is usually late May. And so that gives me a few months to accumulate them. And I need to get them all organized, get all the other canned goods organized, and go do my grocery shopping. So, oh no! Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed the challenge. I want you to make sure to check out the hashtag 3 Rivers Challenge, and I want to thank all of the content creators who have participated over the last 2 months. Some of them are going to continue on next month without me, and I want you to check out what they have put out. They put out some amazing videos showing some awesome recipes and really great ideas. You can get some good ideas for how to preserve food this year so that you can make meals like they made from their pantries next year. And so check out that hashtag. If you're on Instagram, they don't really allow you to follow hashtags anymore. So we created an account. There's an account named 3 Rivers Challenge, and we had many people posting meal ideas and reels and all sorts of things to that account this year. And so let's make sure we check that out too if you're over on Instagram. Okay, Miss Abby here seems fussy. I think she's hungry. Oh no! So we're gonna go eat. You wanna say bye? Oh, okay guys, we're gonna say bye. All right, we'll see you next week, friends. Bye.